For the last year, we have been thinking and working a lot about new risk that generative AI introduce to enterprises. And the good place to start is from this slide, because this slide essentially tells you 3 reasons why there are new risks. Okay? It's not obvious that there should be a new risk. Okay? And these 3 things that is unique to generative AI models and application are important to understand. The first one is that generative AI are versatile. They can do a lot of things. Okay? They can do more things that you think they can do. Okay? The second thing is that they are probabilistic. Okay? You can enter the same input into this application, and 1,000 times you will get the same result, and the 1,001 time you will get something new and unpredictable. These models has high agency. Okay, the word agency is misunderstood in many things. For some reason, people are thinking that agency in this respect means that this models application can do things in real life. Okay, this is not necessarily so. Okay, what it really means is that they can decide. Yuval Harari put it best. He said that the fact that this new application or model can drop an atomic bomb on a city is not new. The fact that they can decide to drop the bomb is the fact that is new. Okay, and this ability to make decision is the new things and create security risks for applications that are built on top of this model. And the last thing is that these models are built on natural languages. And there is a mistake here. It's not and can be manipulated. It is because the fact that they are built on top of natural languages that they can be manipulated. If you build something on top of something which is illogical, and natural language are illogical, okay? They have, for example, true sentences whose opposite is also true. In natural language, there is such thing. Okay? And when you build the entire models and then the entire application on top of these things, it's not surprising that you can manipulate those. We are going to interact with AI applications everywhere. You're going to interact with it just by, fact that you buy some SaaS applications that has AI, and you're going to build them also. Okay, and interacting with this application creates new risk, and building them and then protecting them and deploying them creates new risk. And we need to understand these different risks. And yes, okay, there is no question. If you are asking whether most of this application will be full-blown code or no code, there is no question. Okay, most of them will be no-code application. Okay, they will have a very powerful artificial intelligence model inside of them, and they will be built without any code. So when people try to talk about security risks that generative AI introduce, they normally start by saying, and people here said it rightly, that underneath all, there is an old security. You still need to secure your VMs and your data and your networking and everything else. And identity is important and everything is important. Okay? Above that, they start throwing words like jailbreaking and prompt injection and data leakage and so on. And it gets very confusing. So I'll share with you how we are kind of organizing our thoughts about it. Okay? The way we look at security risk is essentially putting it into 4 buckets or pillars. Okay? This picture, there is a lot of information actually in it. Okay? So for example, at the lower part are things which are important to very few people. Okay? The more higher you go, more people should care about these things, these risks. Okay? For example, at the very bottom, you see what we call the platform or foundational model security. Very important. Okay? However, very few people actually create foundational model, and very few people even train those models. Okay? So we have a situation in which customers come to us and say, how do I prevent model theft? And we ask them, did you create a model? They say, no, I'm using products X and Y. And people don't understand that this is not your problem, okay? Important problem, but for very few people. At the very top, okay, is a problem that everyone needs to understand. Even if you think that you don't use AI, okay, you might be surprised, okay? This is the interaction between your users and AI solutions. Whether they are your own or third party, doesn't matter, okay? This interaction contains risk, entails risk, okay? And it needs to be managed, it needs to be monitored, it needs to be governed, okay? And you need to understand what applications are used, you need to understand how they are used, and you need to limit, in certain cases, the way it is used in your organization. Beneath it is a whole world of building application, okay? If you are a customer or organization that builds your own generative AI application, you need to think about how do you secure this application from the beginning to the top, okay? So from the way you build it, how do you harden them, okay? How do you ship them, how do you update them, how do you monitor and protect them post-deployment, okay? And then there is a thing that we put kind of on a side, which we call extended risk, which are all those risks that are unique to kind of this field, and we still poorly understand actually, okay? For example, what we call AI insider risks, okay? These applications that we are building today and deploying, they are very capable, okay? They are very capable. In some way, you can say that you hired, okay, I don't know, 100 or 1,000 new employees, okay? And the same way that we understand insider risk as this problem that some of our employees might behave in a risky way, unsecure way, sometimes malicious way, you need to understand that this application can do it. And they can do it even without any external attack, okay? Remember, they are unpredictable, they are probabilistic, so if you are not monitoring, don't be surprised that something will happen and you will not like it, okay? Another thing is, can you hear me still? Yes. Another thing is how to combine new attack, okay, on the generative AI level with more generic and more well-known attack paths that we all are aware today, okay? How do we address the risk contained in the multimodal, okay, interface, okay? If I'm now, we are still struggling to understand the risk contained in natural languages, but now if the input into an app is audio, okay, there is a long list of new risks that weren't there before, okay? If it's video, another order of magnitude additional risks that weren't there before, okay? And so on and so on. So there is a long list of kind of new type of problem, if you wish, that we need to address and we need to understand. Now, each one of these boxes is at least an hour of presentation and a couple hours of arguing. So I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm going to touch at least a little bit more deeper into one of these boxes, and this is related to how do you build and protect the applications, the generative AI applications that you are building. The first thing, however, just a reminder, okay, that these models that we are building application on top of can be manipulated, if you remember, as I said before. And the reason that we are even talking about is that, again, the models are so capable, okay, that we, and by we I mean we the people, we the government, we the regulation authority, have decided that we need to limit, we need to define what these models can and cannot do, okay? And we are building this restriction into this model by way of kind of building some guide rails, if you wish, inside this model that prevents them doing things that they can do, but we don't wish them to do, okay? So for example, a responsible model, if you ask it to define or describe how to build a weapon, it will politely say, no, will not do it, okay? And you can see it on the left side, you know, the normal attempt to coerce a model to describe how to build a Molotov cocktail, okay? But then there are ways to convince them, okay? This particular way was published not long ago. It's called crescendo attacks, okay? Essentially, if you talk with the model long enough about subjects that includes what you want to achieve, okay, at the end it will agree, okay? And if you ask it not directly, describe to me how to build a Molotov cocktail, but you start with history and when it was first used and how it was used, and then innocently use, can you add more details to this, and then it will spill it out, okay? You don't need to directly interact with the model in order to perform this type of attack. You can, if you know that a particular application during its performance, during the operation, read some files, okay, or read some website, you can plant essentially this type of attack into this document and then just sit and wait until this application will read it, consume it, and this way you perform the attack, okay? So there are many ways to perform this type of attack that are called jailbreaking. Essentially, when you are buying a model today, they are called responsible model. They're actually jailed, okay? They are inside a jail that people built around them so that they will not do things we don't want them to do. Now, it is an open question whether we can sometimes in the future build a model that, or jailed around this model that cannot be broken. Okay? There was an article a year ago almost that claims that it's in principle theoretically impossible. Okay? I tend to agree with this, but there are a lot of smart people that say no, we will succeed essentially, eventually, in building a model that you cannot break. Okay? And B, it actually doesn't matter. Okay? And I want to explain why I mean it doesn't matter. For you, it doesn't matter. And now I kind of assume that all of you are going to build a generative AI application. Okay? And it doesn't matter if you are going to build generative AI application, because if you are worrying about jailbreaking, meaning breaking the original guide rails of the LLM model, then you are worrying about the wrong thing. Okay? What you need to worry about when you build an application is whether it is possible to break the intent. Okay? Think about it. When you write an application, you have a purpose. Okay? This is not a generic chatbot. A generic chatbot, it's an LLM model. Okay? But if you write, let's say, what it says here, Contoso agent, support agent, or something. Okay? You have a something. You have a purpose in mind. You have intent in mind. Okay? Now, if you write it in such a way that I can do any one of the things on the right, okay, and receive an answer, you wrote it wrong, okay? Because if your agent that's supposed to do only one thing, help Contosa customers to do reservation, agrees to write code, okay, or answer questions about credit cards, or summarize documents that I'm sending to him, you wrote a very risky application. And it will be attacked, and you will get hurt. Okay? And this type of attacks, these are the attacks that you need to worry about when you write your own application. It's not the jailbreaking of the original guide rails of the model. It's an intent breaking of the applications that you wrote. It's a very subtle difference, but it's a very important difference. Now, just a little bit about, okay, now that we kind of understood a little bit about the attacks, or possible attacks, how do we monitor, how do we protect, how do we prevent these attacks, okay? And what you see here is kind of a generic view of a generative AI application, okay? So there is some main, I don't want to use one of the more popular words like orchestrator or something like this, but there is a main code that is mostly in the middle there. And then behind it, of course, there are models. And by the way, more and more applications will have several models. Okay, it's not, we are way beyond kind of already relying on one model for different reasons. And then there is, of course, there is an input from user. It can be an input. It can be just APIs that is called by another application, of course. And then there are a bunch of things that this application needs that doesn't come from a user, but it needs to gather it from the web, from some database, from some extensions, actuators, and so on and so on. Now, if you look at this and say, okay, now that I understood the risk of this application, where do I put the monitor? Okay, and you can start, of course, by putting it here. Okay, these are input and output, and we were talking about input-output. But of course, this is not enough because this is a very simple thing. I can do what we called, what I showed you before, which is indirect prompt. Okay, essentially injecting something through all the data that's coming up from below here. Okay, so you said, okay, then let's put some monitor here as well, and now we are not in a bad shape. Okay, we can monitor input and output, main input-output. We can monitor input, and by the way, input and output to the helpers applications below and so on. But it's still not enough. Okay, and the reason it's not enough is that the actual, sometimes to understand the attack and to prevent the attack, you will need to understand what is being asked of the LLM model and what is the response of the LLM model. Okay, and just because there is something that looks at like a prompt at the UI of your application doesn't mean that this prompt as is goes as a prompt to LLM. Okay, in fact, in most interesting application, a user can write a simple question, and there will be hundreds of interactions between what is called the generative AI app and the models. Okay, because model will ask, well, what do you think? How should I do it? And an answer will ask, and then some data will get collected and sent back to the model, and so on and so on and so on. So a lot of work, okay, is actually, or a lot of data, very crucial data, is being exchanged between your application and the model. Okay, so if you really want to understand the attack, to prevent the attack, you really need to think about your application encased, okay, in this monitoring and prevention things all around it. As much as I love to talk about unique things, okay, that generative AI security or generative AI application introduce into security, unique risks that they introduce and how to manage them and so on. Security is one big thing. Okay, it doesn't make sense for you to have non-generative AI security separated from generative AI security. Okay, because security which is separated is security which is broken. Okay, so if you are building your application and if you are monitoring and if you are collecting data about it, it is very important, okay, that you will do what is described here, which is essentially says integrate your generative AI security into your general security, okay, into your SOC, into your enable your analyst, okay, to view both sides, okay, the very unique data that you collect or alerts that you collect or attacks that you identify on the generative AI side with the things that we know of, okay, all the attacks that we know, the data that we know, and so on.